the one, the only, Michael Laskow. See you guys Sunday. I'll be here Sunday.
Thank you very much. Good morning. So, for all of you who got in yesterday, did you have a good time last night? Yeah. Isn't it amazing? This is the only place in the world where you actually want to be in the line. You know, there's something magical about that registration line. So, I don't know what it is, but I had like 30 people come up to me last night and say, I've already made 5 friends. I'm not lying. It really works. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy lives to join us for this incredible weekend that we've got planned for you. Speaking of which, before we go any further, I want to thank our sponsors, because without them, you guys would be paying for these seats, paying like $350 to $1,000 a ticket. So let's hear it for Amatron, American Songwriter Magazine, ASCAP, Audio Perception, Bandzoogle, Bose, Discmaker CD Baby, Full Touch Media, Gauge Precision Instruments, I should do this like a voiceover guy, Keyboard Magazine, Los Angeles College of Music, Master Writer, Mobile Roadie, Music Connection Magazine, Rockstar Energy Drinks. Yes, they said 3 pallets this year. Drink up, my friends. I'll be selling them to a 7-Eleven right after the rally. Realitone, Recording Magazine, Roland, Sonoma Wireworks, StudioPros.com, Warp 4 Technologies, and Westlake Pro. Let's hear it for them. Please, please, please stop by their booths and just say thank you to them. Buy their products, use their services. Really, I mean, you can't imagine the cost in putting something like this on, and they pay the ticket for it. So I really appreciate them doing their thing. So normally I start out the rally by doing a theme. You know, we've done generosity in the past. I've done persistence in the past. I was going to do integrity this year. I thought integrity was good. I still think integrity is good, actually. But a few days ago, something happened that made me rip up my speech. It's like 2nd or 3rd year in a row where I've ripped up the speech at the last minute. So no speech. Well, this is actually kind of a speech. But I recently got an email from a taxi member I know pretty well. He's got a relationship and a wide open door with the executive producer of a primetime broadcast network TV show. So the member who's got that relationship called me up, and he asked if he could run a listing with Taxi. So, you know, we vet our people that run listings. We don't just say yes to anybody that wants to run a listing. But I know this member. He's professional. He's honorable. He knows the business side of the film and TV music industry. He's been a member for, I think, 3 years. He's had a bunch of placements. He's got a bunch of stuff signed with other libraries. So he wanted to dig up some stuff to have in a little catalog that he could pitch to this guy other than his own stuff. So I said, okay, you know, I'm willing to run the listing, but why don't you do it non-exclusively because you're new, number 1. And number 2, start out slow. Let's see how this goes, and if it works well, we'll continue doing it. And he said, great. So this is the listing that we ran for him, or part of it. Heartfelt, hopeful, singer-songwriter songs with pop rock sensibilities are needed by a new, non-exclusive film and TV music company with a direct connection to the executive producer of a primetime TV drama on a major broadcast network. Pretty clear, right? So we got about 100 submissions for it. We forwarded him 10 songs, and this is part of an email I got back from him after we sent him the music. It says, by the way, I reached out to 3 members. Only 1 of the 3 got back to me. That one ended up getting signed and pitched with a frown after it. So only 1 of 3, only 33% of the people who were about to be offered a deal and have their stuff pitched to the executive producer of a primetime broadcast network TV show bothered to get back to this guy. Another one I talked to was a little uncomfortable because the company was brand new. So you got to ask, why did the guy pitch his stuff? The listing said new library, and then when he talked to somebody, they said, well, it's a new library, I don't know. I thought that was kind of strange. So he says, I'm shocked that some of these people have been members much longer than I have, and they still don't know what non-exclusive or exclusive means. So that was shocking to me, and I thought, why wouldn't you get back to somebody offering you a deal? Crazy. Why would you submit your music to a listing that says the company is new in the very first sentence, then turn it down only because the company is new? I don't get it. Especially because it's a non-exclusive deal. You can't get hurt, you know? I mean, it seemed like such a no-brainer. How could you be a taxi member for a number of years and not know the difference between exclusive and non-exclusive? Do I not talk about this on taxi TV all the time? Yes. Do we talk about it at the road rally all the time? Yes. Do we talk about it in the newsletter, in the little emails I send out to you guys? We talk about it all the time. Every single member should know what that means. So, where the hell am I? Oh, okay, so I threw out the speech. I decided that this year's road rally theme is going to be tough love, all right? We're going to go through a tough love weekend. Yeah, baby. I desperately want every single person in this room to achieve your goals, whatever that goal is. Maybe you've got a full-time gig and a family and a bunch of responsibilities, and your goal is to get 2 or 3 things a year placed in a TV show. Maybe your goal is to get something cut on a major label record. Maybe your goal is to be able to quit your day gig and do film and TV music full-time eventually. Whatever your goal is, we want you to accomplish that, and we're here to help you do it. And speaking of tough love, this year's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient is both tough and loving. She's hardworking, she's straight-talking, and she's a true champion of great music and the people who make it. You won't see her wearing kid gloves, and she won't sugarcoat the message, but she'll always give it to you straight up with no BS. If you look up music supervisor in the dictionary, Maureen Crowe's photo will probably be there. She's been doing this so long, I think she music supervised the piano players for Mary Pickford and Rudolph Valentino's movies. I thought that was funny when I wrote it. She cut her teeth on the TV show Fame and ended up expanding the role of what music supervisors actually do. She redefined the entire scope of what music supervisors could do with her groundbreaking work on the mega hit movie, The Bodyguard. She made us laugh with Wayne's World. She scared us half to death and made us gasp for air with The Perfect Storm. She made Roxy Hart unforgettable in Chicago, and she's been doing groundbreaking music supervision on every single project she's touched for 3 decades. But maybe her biggest accomplishment is being the co-founder and president of the Guild of Music Supervisors for 5 years. Let's hear a little bit of her work. Can you hit the lights and make that video play? Please, dear God, make the video work.
I'm gonna live forever. I'm gonna learn how to fly. I see a little silhouette of a man. Scaramouche, will you do the fandango? Thunderbolts and lightning.
Just outside of Chicago.
Galileo.
Pop, 6, squish. Cicero. Lipschitz. Pop, 6, squish. Cicero. Lipschitz. Pop, 6, squish. Cicero.
Do you think you could fall for a woman like me?
What's your biggest fear? Drowning. Heights. Crowds. Or maybe the opposite. Some fears you face head on. Some you take to your grave.
And the Grammy goes to Whitney Houston.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Maureen Crowe for her great ears.
Great music supervision, Gary DeMille and Maureen Crowe.
The Bodyguard, original soundtrack album, Whitney Houston.
Maureen Crowe, Music Supervisor Guild President. Maureen is responsible for helping to start this organization and bring it all the way home.
The biggest hope we have is that we are acknowledged by our peer groups, both at the Motion Picture Academy and at the Television Academy. We have recognition and voting rights at the Grammy organization, which we're very proud of. that they've acknowledged us, and we're hoping our other peers will do that as well.
Gentlemen, it's my incredible pleasure to introduce you to Taxi's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient for 2014, Ms. Maureen Crowe.
Great smile. One more. Here we go. Thank you.
Hey, welcome. Have a seat over there.
Wow. It's one of the only awards I've ever received, so I'm very pleased and very humbled by it. Thank you.
God knows you deserve it. What an incredible body of work, and you're still doing it 3 decades later. You must have been like, what, 4 or 5 when you started?
Yeah, really. I was a prodigy. That's it. I'm sure there's plenty of people in the room. How many people even remember Fame? Anyone? Oh, that's great. That's great. It was a really wonderful experience. You know, I'd started in doing theater when I was growing up. So when I interviewed for the job, I said, well, yeah, but I can't transpose music or anything like that. It's like, oh, no, that's not the job. That's not the job. And after a while, I was able to start finding the music and learning about all the wonderful songwriters that were out there that could help make the story shine and touch people's hearts. So thank you all for being part of that journey.
So if I remember correctly, when you started, I think at dinner you were telling me, I had dinner with Maureen like a year ago, and I just kept saying, damn, I wish I had this on tape. Everything coming out of, can you give me a little more level, Nick? Everything coming out of her mouth was absolutely amazing, and it's just like I wanted to share it with all you guys, so that's why I got her here this year. But when you started out doing this, I mean, music supervision was a credit maybe, but it really wasn't a defined art or science or job description, right? It was just like somebody in charge?
There was just a head of music in television and film, and they usually just took care of score. It was at a time when there was still kind of standing orchestras where you could actually call in an orchestra and, you know, or a small group or something. Before home studios kind of took over. But they had started doing it, I like to think that it actually started back in the 60s with Easy Rider. It was really the stories that were being told reflected people's lives, and their lives, contemporary music was part of their lives, and it was a storytelling tool. And so there was Easy Rider, there was, you know, The Big Chill, all these different things. Filmmakers really started using it different. Michael Mann, around the same time, started Miami Vice, which, you know, had the whole different kind of Miami sound that was going on, and electronica and all that. And Becky Mancuso, which was one of the first music supervisors, had worked on Urban Cowboy and on a Footloose. And when I was working on Fame, someone said, you know, there are people that are kind of doing this thing as a career. You know, you should kind of do this. And you know, we used to get the script. In television, it's very much like a machine, you know, that you get one script that you're reading, one script that you're shooting from what you read 2 weeks before, and then you're posting, finishing it on the other end. So you're actually working on 3 projects kind of at the same time. And it's very fast. So, you know, that's really was kind of the training. Like, okay, you know, he feels bad, and then he sings a song. And then afterwards, you know, he feels better, you know, or he kills himself, or, you know. But the songs had to, you know, like in a musical, had to kind of push the story forward in some way and let the audience know what was going on. So it was a tremendous training ground. And I think when I worked on The Bodyguard, it was, I was kind of new to film, and I was really the kid, you know. They were like, okay, well, she can help organize stuff or whatever. But because I had been doing it for already 5 years in terms of helping to tell the stories with songs, when What Becomes of the Brokenhearted was recorded for Fried Green Tomatoes, and that was originally the song that she was supposed to sing, and it was climbing the charts as we were shooting, it was like, we have to find another song. And, and for a story, you always look at, what does the song have to do? What is the, what's the end result? What does it serve? It had to be from his world. It had to be in a bar that played music that he would listen to, and that she would sing it back to him, a man she had an affair with, had just taken a bullet for her, and she was probably never going to see again, and had gone to this critical. So when you ask the right question as a story, I like to think the song presents itself, because you have to answer those questions. It has to fulfill all those needs at the end of it. So,
but that's a look into the actual thought process of the supervisor. And I was thinking as I was working on the questions the other night, there's not a person in this room that wouldn't give up a fingertip to get a song to you. And they're thinking, oh man, if only I could get my stuff to a supervisor. But the timing has to be so perfect, because your need as a supervisor, it could be the greatest song in the world, right? But if you don't
no, that's the thing. It's the amazing part of, talking to songwriters, and I've done, conferences, and you'll have somebody come up and go, I have the perfect song. I have the perfect song for Scandal. I have the perfect song for Breaking Bad. It's like, okay, great. Well, what kind of music is it? Or how do you think, of what's been in the show, why do you think that's perfect? Like, what character would be? And, oh, well, I don't watch the show. And we're like, you don't watch the show? Well, no, I'm too busy in the studio. I don't have time to watch these shows. It's like, well, how do you think it's perfect for the show if you don't watch the show, And so I know it's hard, because you're in the world creating, but it's just like if you wanted to place it with a singer, if it was a country song, you wouldn't necessarily be sending it to Jay-Z. You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing where you have to really do your homework in terms of what, what's going on and what the needs are. And, Scandal uses all existing music, so probably not a big shot unless it was something in a genre that might be just used in kind of a background thing. I did want to mention to you that Houdini, the music that was under Houdini, was actually from a Taxi member. And it was something that was crafted for the opening and the main title sequence. It was a source cue and a bordello. And they definitely wanted it to have a certain type of vibe that you were not going to hear in just traditional turn-of-the-century music. And it couldn't be so contemporary that it would take us out of the period. So that was a listing, and it really solved the problem. I have a little echo going on now. But that's really it with this placement of music, is how do you solve the problem, or how do you enhance the scene, how do you tell the story? So that's why the more clear you are in terms of, this song is about this, and creating relationships and following through, that really... When you said only those people, it was only a small percentage of people followed up on that kind of listing, yeah, that's not acceptable. And, there's a plethora of sources for music right now.
That's an understatement.
And that's an understatement. And honestly, Taxi is your best friend, because they have these tentacles out to all these different people. They are serving you in terms of kind of song management and all these different things, which there are other companies out there that do far less and take far more. So, and when you talk about integrity, Michael is a man of great integrity, and has really...
There's no other way to do it.
He started a format that early on that people were like, well, I don't know about this. Now it's like, oh my gosh, he was a visionary in terms of it, because a lot of the stuff that's going on now is just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, really. And so you have to do your part. No one can want it more than you want it yourself. So every supervisor has their issues with, you know, we answer to, if it's in a film, maybe it's a director and a producer, and maybe a studio. If it's on television, you might have 10 writers, you might have actors that have feelings and blah, blah, blah. So you're dealing with a lot of people. It's not just like, oh, I'm listening to music and I like this song. That would be so nice if that was the job.
You are so amazing. You're literally like going down the list of questions and answering everything that I would have asked.
Sorry, I should probably.
Frankly, I was sitting here going, I should just let her go.
Ask another question.
You're answering all the right stuff. So whose decision is it? Let's talk about, because there are different types of supervision. Supervising a reality show is different from doing an episodic drama. Doing an episodic drama is very different from doing a big budget feature. Doing a big budget feature is very different than doing a documentary. Let's talk about the features, because that's, you know, more or less your specialty, or certainly most of your work has been done.
Well, in features you have a lot more time.
And who do you answer to?
It's usually the director. You know, usually in feature films, the director is the 800-pound gorilla. In some cases, like in The Bodyguard, obviously, Kevin was a big influencer. Everything had to go past him. So Jerry Bruckheimer, I would say, runs the show. But so there'll be a conversation between the director and the producer on that, and depending on who the kingpin is, who the ultimate decider is, we'll decide on that. You know, the Broccoli's for James Bond or producers, they would, you know, have a say with the director and kind of go through that way.
Does it start out with a script? I mean, do you get a script,
yeah,
you know,
it always
in the
starts
early
out.
stages, and you look at it, and as the supervisor, are you expected to go through the script and come back to them, hand them back penciled in notes on a script and say, well, for this scene, I think there should be a love song. For this scene, there should be that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, you go through the script, and anytime there's an opportunity for music, it could be like, you know, they're in the car driving. Do you want music in there or not? You know, do you want to play it quiet or not? They're in a restaurant. Do you want music in there? Or do you want to do ever? There's a montage scene. Is that going to be score, or should we get a song done for that? A lot of cases also, you might go into post-production and they've overshot the film and it's like, you know, running 2.5 hours and it's a romantic comedy and like, okay, we gotta condense this. And that's kind of what happened with, Tootsie. I know that the director for a long time, Something Telling Me It Might Be You, that old song or whatever, they had to show the whole relationship between, you know, Jessica and Dustin Hoffman's character when she goes home, and they were like, this is taking forever. So they cut it together and put a song, and it developed the entire relationship in 1.5 minutes, as opposed to, you know, 20 minutes later. Okay, we got it, let's move on. Directors and producers, I was a producer of The Hangover that was at the Produce By conference, and he was talking about that. A great song can save so much time and energy in terms of shooting. And a shooting day is like, inexpensively, is a $250,000 day. So if you have a song that eliminates basically having to shoot 2 or 3 days of dialogue, you know, and be more effective in terms of communicating to your audience, it's the fastest shorthand and the most compelling way to actually help tell the story. And this was coming out of a producer's mouth. They know that, you know, and yet they still try to, you know, they know that it's flexible in terms of cost, so people are always kind of like, well, I can get it for you, you know, wholesale, I can get you this and that and everything else. And so there's a lot of pressure now on budgets.
There must be a tremendous amount of pressure on you when the director is in love with the song. Maybe it's the director's 14-year-old daughter loves the song, plays it around the house. The director falls in love with it. I want this song in my movie. And you are, you know, wearing that albatross around your neck for 6 months, and then the big day comes. You're on the mix stage. You've totally blown through the budget. There's no more money. And is the Rolling Stones song staying in or coming out? How do you prepare for that moment, and what do you do as a safety net?
You get alternatives. You just get lots of alternatives. You put the calls out, and you always have music that's kind of ready to go. And I'm pretty straight, you know, when something is not, like even with, you know, What Becomes the Broken Hearted, Kevin was like, well, why can't we still do it? I said, because the other film is out. We're coming out 6 months later. It'll be like you couldn't come up with an original idea for your movie. This thing's already been a hit. So in some cases, you know, you just have to kind of deal with the audience's side of it. And you know, for a while, every single director wanted to use There She Goes. There she goes, you know that song? It was on everything, I'm sure, every commercial, everything else. It was in every film. And so when I worked on a Guy thing, the director had in the film and loved it, loved it, loved it. And I think like for 3 films in a row, every time I would walk in the editing room, it was like playing in some scene. And I just finally just go, look, you cannot use this song. And nobody in the editing room was saying it. Everybody was silent. I said, okay, I'm going to say it, and I want to go through each and every one of these people in the room, and I want you to tell me that I'm lying. And let the director know. And they went, no, it's been used a lot. We went through the list of commercials, tampon, all this stuff. That was all being used. I said, so you have to know, when you use that song, all of that is coming with. You know, because it's not in a vacuum. The song is going to come with you, you know, wherever you go. Like when I say Blue Velvet, do you think of 1950 dancing with your girl? Or do you think of David Lynch?
Yeah.
So every song has a footprint, and you have to respect that footprint and go through it. So you do always get alternatives for it. And most of the time, you know, there's always great alternatives. They just, you know, you're kind of... And you know, I wanted to say just about directors and their prejudice against music, because a lot of times it has nothing. It always goes back to the script and who's your character. You know, I had a director one time who was a woman who was doing this film about a girl who was in a rock band in Los Angeles, you know, and her sister was mentally impaired, but was in love with Ricky Nelson, had Ricky Nelson posters all over the place. Had to go get her after the mother died and figure out a life together back with a rock group. And she wanted a saxophone jazz score. And so, you know, this is when I'm like, gosh, I'm so brilliant. You know, it's, I go, I hate to tell you this because she liked saxophone. She liked it. That's what she listened to. And I said, I got to tell you, every character in your movie is screaming out, you know, either a rock score or at least a guitar score. You know, it's got to be a guitar score. She goes, really? So I'm like, really? So, you know, those kind of that's a big example, but those are the kind of things you have to keep going back into character. You know, what is your character? What is the world your character lives in? What kind of music would they play? So if somebody asks you songs for teenagers or for Disney, or, you know, that's different than you know, necessarily AMC. There's different audiences. So every TV show, it's just like a concert, there's going to be different ticket holders that are checking that in every week. So it's really, you know, just to get a sense of what it is. ABC has different musical tones than HBO, than Showtime, and all these different things. And, you know, just doing a smattering of it once a year and seeing shows will give you a really good idea of what the story is, seeing trends and ads. You know, how they're getting quirkier or less quirky or this and that, you know?
I noted this morning while I was getting ready to come down here that all you need is a ukulele, a glockenspiel, and some ooh-ahs, and you've got a commercial. Didn't we all think that was going to end like 3 years ago? But it's still going strong. It's amazing. There's
just so much information out here, and this is one of the things that I like to talk about, is music is driving so many industries. It basically saved Apple from extinction with iTunes. It has driven, right now, commercials. They don't have to write a copywriter. They can just get a song, and they sell it the song, because there's so much information out there. What is the best way to get people's attention? A song. You know, the same thing I was talking about, selling the comedy, telling the story, how to get there fast. The song is such a powerful tool. And it's not, you know, and it's kind of, the music industry is not being treated well and fair in terms of what is contributing economically to the livelihood of these industries, of, you know, creating the Spotifys, the Shazams, all these different things. And it's, you know, kind of, we're all supposed to say, oh, thank you so much for using our music so you can make more money and not paying me.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, there's just a really...
It's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking to me. So I want to talk about...
But I just want to say, you teach people how to treat yourself. You know what I mean? So if you accept it, hey.
But there's always somebody standing behind them in line that will do it cheaper or for free. And that's changed the paradigm. But I want to get back to picking music and pushing boundaries and just taking risks. Houdini, there's a lot of rock stuff in the score, but it's a period piece. That's
Right.
almost unheard of, but it was noted by Variety magazine. They did an article and talked about you doing that. Who comes up with an idea like that? Oh, look, we're doing a period piece about Houdini. Let's stick a bunch of rock songs in there, and it worked really, really well.
It worked well because, you know, if you, well, look at Boardwalk Empire. How does Boardwalk Empire start? What's the opening title music for Boardwalk Empire? Anyone? It's rock. It's guitar. It's rock. So it's, and the same thing with Houdini. Initially, the director and the producer wanted to do a very linear story, wanted all period, you know, even like the recording shouldn't have been perfect. Like we want a little hair on it, and I was finding circus bands and stuff that were still recording. But it didn't work because it didn't place you, it didn't give you the emotional context of that this guy was a rock star of his day. That he was, you know, he really pushed the boundaries. He did this, and the same thing with Boardwalk Empire. So by using contemporary music and using rock music, it immediately telegraphed to the people, this guy was really crazy, you know, and tough, and pushed the edges, and constantly going, and had that drive. And, you know, Bicycle Built for Two was not going to do that, you know?
So shifting gears from feature films to doing episodic stuff that's weekly. On a film, you have months, and you answer to the director and make him or her happy. On episodic TV, because it's weekly, when do you get the script? What's your timeline like as a supervisor, and who do you have to make happy for a TV show?
Usually you get a budget for the entire year, and then you can kind of break it up per episode. So some episodes, they may use less money and then kind of bank the money for if they need something bigger or later on. You usually would start like in June or July for regular, or whatever, a couple of months before you're with the writers, and you know, they're writing scripts and you're kind of getting stuff. And then as you know, time goes on, that prep time gets less and less and less. Because like I said, you're prepping one story, you're shooting another, and you're posting another. So it just starts, you know, really going. It's a machine. You have to please the writers, and usually sometimes these are all teams. So there's usually an executive producer that's the head guy that has, or head woman that has to say okay to everything. But then each script maybe have a different team. They might have a writers, 10 people on the show, and each one gets assigned different writers. They might write together. And then you have different directors coming in. So every week, the directors are, you know, made for hire, and they follow through the whole thing for, you know, so you're maybe switching 2 or 3 directors at a time. One in prep, one that's shooting, and then one in post. And they may come in with their own ideas, you know, and so you have to kind of get into their sensibility. You know, that was really common kind of in Fame because there were all different themes and different things going on. On a show like, you know, Scandal, or a show, you know, even like Nashville, a lot of that stuff will be prepped ahead of time, and the director will just, so it really will go to the writers. And the studio. If the studio is not happy, especially like with a big franchise like ABC, they will be involved in it. And I know initially on the show, I think there were people on the music side that wanted it to go more Americana. And Disney was like, no, we're going more towards Taylor Swift, pop country, rather than like Americana. So that was really a way of kind of doing that, you know, working on that and addressing it.
Used to be that there was a lot of timing involved with record labels, both in films, probably in TV shows. We've got an artist who's doing a release, probably a known, previously successful artist that has a Christmas release coming out, let's say in September, October. So the supervisor might work months in advance to time the release of a single with the show. Does that stuff still matter with the current state of the music industry? Because records come out, but I mean, I think I just heard the other day, we haven't had a platinum record yet in 2014.
Yeah, I think Taylor actually has got it
just
now.
went over the line?
Just that went over. I think she did it. So, but you know, the record companies are constantly, you know, talking about, you know, okay, we got this release. How does this work for you? Obviously, Chasing Cars, the famous use in Grey's Anatomy, that was a tie-in to a known band, you know, and it just, a lot of supervisors got it, and it was like, you know, I think working on Poseidon at the time, and it was like, well, this is not going to work for me anywhere. So, but it worked for Grey's Anatomy, you know, and it worked really well. It covered 4 different storylines for the finale of the show, you know, so that was a great thing. So they do look at that. The flip side of that, and this goes to the NFL story about the pay to play with Katy Perry, that she's not paying to play, but yet she's not getting paid. And she's still paying her back end for the privilege of getting tremendous ratings for the promotional value of performing during the NFL halftime show, which of course is the biggest ad revenue for the NFL. So I think there should be a movement that she should be paid, and if she's not paid, a huge donation should be made to Music Cares and Society of Singers.
There you go.
So I think you all should start blogging that, Facebooking that, and everything else. And the idea is that if that does not happen, then just turn off your TV during the Super Bowl game. That's all you have to do. That's the power of consumerism, and that will raise the value of music, because that is ultimately the big picture that we are all about. So, and this was, you know, the NFL, they're all billionaires, so like, oh, the ratings were so high. You know, we're really doing Bruno Mars a favor by letting him perform at the halftime game. It's like, oh, really? Oh, because he was nothing before, you know.
Right.
And that's why you wanted him, because you really wanted to help his career. You know, you thought, God, that guy's so good, let's give him a shot. You know.
It feels like there's no turning back. It's just, it's getting worse by the...
We have to make it better. I mean, that's the whole thing. There has to be a sense of this will not stand. And so I understand everyone's competitive. I understand for some people this is like, you know, a heartfelt kind of hobby that you like to do, and it makes you feel good, and, you know, you got your day job and things like that. But, you know, it's, you want to be great. You want the music to be great. And you don't want to be undercutting somebody else's greatness by flooding the market and by doing something that's, oh gosh, I can sound like this record and not really be that record. And I understand, you know, there's a place for that, and definitely supervisors need that. But we also just need great, great music. And the piece that was in Houdini was, you know, it was very difficult to find. It wasn't something that was going to come from the library, because it just really needed something very specific. And so it, you know, as soon as it went in, they were like, oh yeah, great, because they were convinced, oh, you're not going to find anything. Oh, I'm not going to find anything. And the composer's like, I don't want to do it. Like, find it, find it, find it. So, you know, that's the kind of commitment that you really need to have.
We found it in a matter of days.
Yeah,
right?
it was not, yeah, very quickly and very directly, and you know, the writer was very accessible. You know, he was a working musician, he had a regular band, and he was playing around, and you know, this was like a little side thing for him, but you know, he knew what he was doing. You know, so if you're not gonna, if you're not going to take the craft seriously by answering somebody who's interested in you, you've got to really rethink like how dedicated you are to this, because that's, yeah, you need to either value yourself more or value other people's time more, because when they're listening to it, they're assuming that you want the attention. And if you don't call them back, it's like, why did this, you know, it's like, you just knocking on the door and running away? Is that what you're doing?
Hopefully they're not lighting
Are
a
you
bag
just
of,
pressing
you know what,
all the elevator buttons just for fun?
But we should mention that the taxi member who got that piece in Houdini was Mark Capone. Are you?
Yes, Mark Capone was wonderful.
Are you here, Mark? I have no idea if you came to the rally or not.
Well, I think I know he has a regular tour thing that he does back in you know, but this is now, you know, this is a contact now. Like, you know, I know him, I know he's got his band, I'm listening to him, and so it's, because we care about the people that deliver. The people that, if we take the time to listen and we say, hey, I like your song, I'm going to call back. If you don't call back, people don't forget. Now it's like, wait a minute, wasn't that the guys that I called, they didn't call me back? Oh, you know.
Right.
Don't have time for that. Life is too short, forget it, you know, because it is fast. And like with commercials, people are like, you know, 5 teams or 10, 20 teams will be working on the same spot, and it's very aggressive. There's a lot of money at stake. I mean, these shows cost a lot of money. So, you know, and we want, and part of the Guild thing is that we're part of media. You guys are all part of media now. You know, your tool is music. but you are just as much part of the media story as the actors, as the set design, as the costumes, as everything else. You're not the second cousin who gets to eat in the kitchen. There's never been a silent movie industry. There's always been music. We are driving all these things, so everybody has to really, understand their value. Even if the economics, are tough, you still have to, value what you do and return the phone call. Or don't bother anybody, because it's like, they took the time to listen to your stuff and you don't have the time to call back. I'm like, oh, okay, put that person in that box. Goodbye.
Do you remember Adam White's, our former VP?
Yes.
Okay, so Adam called a taxi member. It's a true story. Called a taxi member up. I think John Houlihan wanted to use a piece in maybe Looper, one of the films.
Yeah, Looper, great film.
Yeah.
Great use of music in Looper,
Yeah, and ended up using some taxi music in it. But he called this gentleman who lived in like Nebraska, and he was a farmer. And he gets the guy on the phone and he says, I've got a major music supervisor that wants to license your music for a big budget feature film. And the guy goes, license? What the hell do I need a license for? He thought it was like a fishing license. He really did.
He thought it was a fishing license.
He did. He thought that he had to like sign up and pay a license, like get a hunting or fishing license.
Yeah, it's just a hunting licence. Just give me all your publishing. There you go. Yeah.
and so Adam said, but look, I need to know, like right now. And the guy goes, I'm in the middle of my field, driving my combine. Can I call you back when I get done? But unfortunately, that's the world that we live in, because a lot of these folks, most of these folks, have day jobs, and they're not totally professionally in the industry, but their music is at a level where it can be.
And that's okay,
Yeah, so we're making that happen.
You're making that happen, but when they call you, that's making it happen.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't mean there's a guarantee it's going to happen, but you become, on the pin list of, okay, that didn't happen, but, that was good. So the next time they actually may call taxi, or they may say, hey, that rider, can you get me, I'm going to put the listing out, but make sure that rider's in on that.
Right.
Because, because we're all trying to cut through a lot of stuff, and I've been very impressed, honestly, by the material that you all are doing, and I just want it to be better, more better. More better makes our job easier.
Speaking of more better, you're a co-founder and 5-year-long president of the Guild of Music Supervisors, which, why it took so long for that to happen, I don't know, but it figures that it was you that did it.
We talked about it 10 years ago, really.
Why did you create the Guild? I know, but I want them to know.
Well, we've been working, a lot of us are independent contractors, so we don't get health care. We don't get anything. And, with the change, the paradigm shift of the record industry, it's devalued music, and it's also devalued music supervision. Even though they keep hiring, it's like they've devalued in terms of how much you get paid,
Well, and there's a flood of out-of-work A&R guys go, I'm a music supervisor, but the job isn't just hanging out smoking weed and listening to music.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm listening to music all day, that's a great job. Oh yeah, I wish that was the job. And I get to do that like at 10 o'clock at night, because the phone's ringing, you're making deals, you're dealing with production demands, you're talking to directors, you're putting out listings at taxi, you're calling people to get the material in, and then when the phones stop ringing, you can actually start listening to stuff. And if you get the answers, you're like, oh, thank God. And if you're not, you're like, oh my God, I got to start making calls again first thing in the morning. But the reason we started the Guild, I was governor on the LA chapter of the Recording Academy and was elected president of the LA chapter of the Recording Academy. And at the time, music supervisors were not considered voting members. It was not considered a craft, and yet they were, I think I was the first music supervisor that was in that, because I also had voting rights as a producer of soundtracks. And they kept saying, we need educated, members of the Recording Academy so that they really listen to a lot of music and they make good judgments and stuff like that. It's like, well, hello, music supervisors listen to everything. That's what their thing is. So, and there's always a perception like, oh, don't they just handle the paperwork? It's like, and half the room stood up like, you don't know what's going on. So that ended up happening, and we actually got all the music supervisors together to let them know that they now had voting rights and that they could vote at the Grammys, which means they were eligible to actually purchase tickets to the Grammys, and that they could, be part of the community. So we got all the leading music supervisors, about 100 people came in, and Don Soler, who now is the head of ABC Television, who was independent at the time, said, okay, so where's the curtain? I was like, what do you mean, where's the curtain? She's like, you didn't have us come down here just to say that you're acknowledging us as a craft. I mean, where's the band, right? This is a switch and bait thing, because we're always asked to see bands. It's always, what can you do for us? You know, oh, you're a music supervisor. What can you do for me? You know, as opposed to the other way around. So, and it was a very emotional meeting. So following that, we had a dinner. Alex Gustavus, Dave Jordan, John Houlihan, P.J. Bloom, Evian Clean, a lot of the leaders, Bonnie Greenberg, who had done The Mask and had done, you know,
I mean, that's
my
the
best friend's wedding.
A-list of supervisors.
And even Becky Mancuso, which was talking about Urban Cowboy and Footloose, just to show the history of it. Do you want to form a guild? Do you want it to be a promotional arm about the value of music supervision as a craft to stop all these people flooding the market and then doing a bad job and then having producers that say, music supervisors, they're a disaster, you know.
And then you get called in to fix it for no money.
Yeah, you get called in to fix it for no money, and then you have to also go in, like I've had so many times to the producer saying, oh my God, I've never had this experience. Everything worked, and it's on budget, and it's on time, and there's no problems. I didn't know it could be this way. I'm like, yes, well, that's because you didn't really know the skill set. So we published a skill set of what producers and directors should expect from music supervisors, and that's being used. So if somebody come in or going, oh, I got a radio collection, it's like, okay, do you know how to do this? Do you know rights? Do you know this? Do you know, how to do edit, all this kind of stuff. So then we got that. Then we also got award recognition. So if a soundtrack, like on The Bodyguard, everyone went away with an Album of the Year credit. I actually put the entire record together, and I got a certificate saying thank you for participating. I said, oh, that's so nice. And I didn't really know the record business because I had come out of, actually production. And which is then I went to work for Columbia, and then I worked for Arista after that, saying, someone said, oh, so you know nothing about the record business, so you go to the biggest record company in the world to start? I said, well, why not? Anyway, so that was part of the thing. So now if a soundtrack wins and a music supervisor worked on 51% of the record, he or she will also go home with a Grammy. So for example, Annie is coming out. Oh yes, thank you, yeah, it's good. But we're not stopping there. Since they got craft recognition, now we're actually in conversations for the last 3 years with the Television Academy, because both the Television Academy and the Motion Picture Academy pretty much just represent composers and original songwriters. So that means, like for the Motion Picture Academy, Scorsese's music and storytelling, irrelevant. Quentin Tarantino, irrelevant. Anything, I Will Always Love You, irrelevant to the storytelling because it's not original, And originally before 1960, it was just best song for the story. Didn't matter if it was original, what actually helped tell the story. Oscar Hammerstein won it for Last Time I Saw Paris, which he did not write for the film. That was called that, and the whole story was based on the song, not about the song, but basically they used it as a jumping point to create a whole story. He goes, I don't feel right about this because I didn't really write it for the film. And he was using the Broadway model, so then they changed it to Best Original Song. That was in 1960, and never changed it again. Have never looked at that rule again. It has to be created. They don't see, Blue Velvet or, the Unchained Melody having any effect on the story whatsoever because it wasn't originally meant. It's original, and the compromise is, well, when you're doing a period piece on costumes, are they creating new designs for 1800s? I don't think so. If it's art direction, they're not saying, well, this is how the 1960s should have looked. It's like, they don't do that. So that's the battle there. The Television Academy has, as a whole, has basically said, yes, music supervisors should be voting members of the Television Academy. And our goal is to also not only have music supervisors, but existing music, and maybe have a music design award. So if there is another Chasing Cars or different things like that, we're not created for the project, but is used basically as a storytelling, that will be acknowledged. And then once we get the Television Academy, then we'll hit the Motion Picture Academy, because it's been a little club, and it's excluding many, 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 many incredibly talented music writers and performers just because they don't fit into their very narrow definition. And that has hurt the promotion of music and the value of music in storytelling, because it's always like, oh, that music industry people, da, 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 da. It's like, no, no, no. You are all part of the media. You are all part of television. You're all part of film. You're all part of the storytelling as much as anyone else. So don't let them put you, what they like to do, I call like music ghetto, you know, it's like, oh yeah, they'll take anything.
Always the bastard stepchild.
Yes.
You know, I'm sitting here listening to you just going, yeah, this is just like dinner. It's just stuff keeps coming out of her mouth and it's all great stuff. But I remember telling you at dinner that night, I met you for a split second 37 years ago, I believe.
That's not possible because...
We were both in elementary school.
I'm sure it was 7 years ago or something. Anyway.
I'm just sitting here going, I cannot believe how full the circle has come because
They know I'm only 27. What are you talking about?
I was walking into Michael Dilbeck's office. I
my
came
God.
out here for a meeting from, I think at the time maybe I lived in Miami or New York, and I came out to meet with
Big
Dilbeck,
guy.
and you were leaving, and he said, Michael, Maureen, Michael.
Oh, I
hi.
do remember that,
Yeah,
actually.
And here we are, all these years later. So it just goes to show you never know what a handshake in a moment, you know, and who the hell would have known that our two careers would have gone the way they did and that we'd be back here on this stage at this moment. And you're
Well, for all your hard work.
you're amazing.
Hard work. You know?
I'm so thrilled to be your friend and to have these opportunities to hear and learn this stuff from you because I think that you should teach classes to all upcoming supervisors to elevate them in the craft.
You know, I have, but part of me is because it's such a poor paying job. Like people that you're thinking like, oh my gosh, you know, he's got 6 shows, he must be rolling in it. You know, when you've got that many shows though, you start paying for overhead. And because the studios don't want to raise, you know, oh, it's just music. You know, they'll take, well, another guy will do it for less, whatever. And so even though he's tremendously successful, he's not making any more money. He's like breaking even. And so I was teaching for a long time, but I felt, you know, Belmont University is $40,000 a year. Someone just spent $160,000 for the education and they want to be a music supervisor and get $22,000 a show, or the privilege for working for free. I'm like, I cannot do that. You know, it's like until we fix the economic model of it. And there was someone I met at the Billboard thing yesterday, and this will give you an example of someone who really prepares and how simple it is. She was sitting, it was at Universal, it was like by the Minion ride that was outside this patio green room for the Billboard Film and TV conference, which means, you know, that the people that were on the panels were there and they were going to be leaving there. She was all by herself, sitting there very quietly. It was already like 9:30 at night, or whatever it was, 7 o'clock at night, it was already dark. I walk out, she stands up, and all by herself, she goes, "Hi, Maureen Crowe." And I don't know if you noticed, my hair's darker than it was in the picture, you know, so I said, yes, I'm Maureen Crowe. She goes, I'm so-and-so, you know, I'm a Syracuse alumni graduate. She figured out I was from Syracuse. I was a Syracuse alumni graduate. I go, great. She's like, yes, I came out here. I'm an engineering major and music engineering, and I want to get into music supervision, and this is my dream. That was the only bit of the conversation, but it impressed me that she had done her homework. She sat there, figured out, like, I'm going to wait here until somebody comes by, you know, that I recognize, had pointed me out, and told me she had done her homework. I brought her back and introduced her to everyone, you know, and like that. And she's going over to Fox today and to meet someone. Because by me realizing, like, she had done so much homework, and it just got expressed in one sentence, that, you know, she knew who I was, she knew what was going on, she was able to express what she wanted, and it's like, okay, this is a new student, she's interested in what we're doing. And, you know,
did she shove music in your face or not?
No, she was no. She just said, I just want to, you know, I'm interested in music supervision. I just graduated. I came out here, and I've been waiting to say hello to you.
And here's the scary part. You woke up at 4 o'clock this morning with her standing at the end of your bed wearing a mask with a knife in her hand.
No, she was very respectful. I mean, it was so quiet, and she was so patient, you know, and she was ready. And I just can't tell you, I mean, like I said, going back to someone saying, oh, I've got a song and it's perfect for your show. Oh, which character? I goes, well, I don't watch the show. It's like, really? Like, lie. Just lie to me. You know what I mean? Like.
And that's why this year's theme is not integrity.
I mean, or watch just one show. You know, at least, you know, if you have a song that's in a soprano key, you know, why would you be handing it to a baritone? You know what I mean? It's like.
And there's no excuse now. With all the technology, you can watch a show on your iPhone. you know, recorded under DVR. I mean, there is no excuse for not seeing
Yeah, I'm
the
not
show.
saying you have to watch it religiously, but, you know, I do that. As a music supervisor, I'll go through and at least watch one or several episodes of any show so I know what's going on. That's it. You're in the entertainment business. You're in the media business. Just know when games are doing a lot of stuff and commercials. It's all over the place. You can just, you know, Mattel's doing stuff with records and American Girl has stuff. There is so many opportunities for music.
That's true. While the price is dropping precipitously, both for supervisors and musicians making music, the number of opportunities has grown exponentially.
Because nothing sells like music.
Yep.
Nothing can help sell your product or your story than music.
Well, let's have that. Oh, somebody in this room is going to win $500. Can I have you draw a winning ticket?
Sure, I'd love to.
Can you bring the box up, Anthony?
Then you'll always like me.
Yeah.
Was that helpful? Did you guys get helpful?
All right. So we're going to give the ticket away, or we're going to give the $500 to the winner, and then we'll say goodbye to Maureen, who's been amazing, as I fully expected. I'll hold the box. Pick a winner.
Who feels lucky?
Yeah, get your tickets out.
Mixing it up. I'm mixing it up.
I hope the person's in the room. And the ticket number is 0005. 0005. Going once. Going twice. 3 times, you're out.
Okay. Maybe it'll be 007 next.
All right, and ticket number 1272. Yes, you got it. All right. Here?
Love it.
Don't put, no, just right here. Right here. I said here, damn it, here. 1272, that is you. What's your name?
Diane.
Where are you from, Diane?
Well, sometimes New York, sometimes Kentucky.
Good.
Mostly
Well,
Kentucky.
here's $500 to get you home. Thank you for coming to the radio. Congratulations, Diane. And
thank you so much, Michael.
with that, I want to thank Maureen Crowe, ladies and gentlemen.
Keep writing great music. You're the best. Thank you. Bye-bye. I just go out this way. Okay.
That's it. We'll get started with the next panel shortly. Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you. Keep writing great music. Go this way.